Hey guys, welcome back. Weekend energy update. We have had quite an active week energetically. We had a new moon in Capricorn on Monday. Wednesday, of course, we had our New Year's Day. Happy New Year, everybody, 2025. And this weekend, we are taking a look at our first formal 2025 weekend energy. It is kind of shifting, changeable, I would say. The way that the weekend starts is not the way that the weekend ends. Probably kind of a more like low vibe, low energy, dreamy, kind of maybe like caught in a bit of a haze, can't really shake it off type of weekend. However, by the time we get to the end of the weekend, maybe, I don't know, something happens, feeling more energized, more stimulated, more motivated, more ready to like seize the day, make something happen, move ahead, moving into next week. So things are shifting this weekend. Venus is changing signs, leaving Aquarius, entering Pisces, breaking that mutual reception with Uranus. We'll talk about the impact that that should have moving forward, but there should be, I would say, kind of a more chilled out vibe to some extent as we move through the next couple of weeks while Venus transits Pisces. But we also have an exact Mars-Pluto opposition taking place on Friday as well. It is like kind of a tinderbox out there. We got a lot of harsh aspects, a lot of squares, a lot of oppositions, a lot of tension, but also kind of, I think, a bit of a desire to just like shut it all out and pretend it's not happening this weekend. So let's get into our report, you guys. Let's take a look at all this, put everything together, see if we can get an idea of what we are moving through and what things might be looking like for us as we head into next week. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Friday, January 3rd, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the weekend, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. In this video, we're going to talk about all we've got going on out there energetically between Friday and Sunday this weekend, what things are looking like for us as we prepare to head into the energy of next week. So let's do that. If you guys have been following along, you know that we have been proceeding through a bit of tension over this, actually, like honestly, like past couple of months. This whole, ever since Mars entered Leo in November, things have gotten really kind of intense because of Pluto's position right now in the sign of Aquarius, and we are currently undergoing a series of 3 Mars-Pluto oppositions. That is one of the most kind of, I would say, intense, powerful, volatile, maybe contentious, aggressive, destructive energies that we have in astrology. It's these two very like powerfully masculine oriented energies, the Lord of the underworld, you know, and the Lord of the battlefield, Hades and Aries, head to head with each other, both wanting obviously to dominate the other in the situation. And so whenever we've got this type of dynamic setting up, it can just bring up power struggles, like clashes of wills and stuff like that, and people generally vying for power, vying for dominance, out for blood. It just is this more ruthless, like cutthroat type of energy. Okay, so we've got that going on, we've had that going on, we're going to continue to have that going on, not to the same extent, but it will be back again after Mars retrogrades back into the sign of Cancer, stations direct, and then goes back through Cancer, leaves Cancer, comes back into Leo, and opposes Pluto in Aquarius again. This is an energy also. I mean, obviously it's like bringing powerful forces to a head, but it's so interesting to me the way that it's set up in the context of the positioning of the nodes of the moon right now as well. The North Node is preparing to wrap up a 1.5 year long transit through the sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, which is of course one of the planets in this oppositional dynamic between Pluto and Mars. The South Node is in the sign of Libra, opposite Aries, of course, at the very beginning of the sign of Libra. And so Pluto and Mars right now in their opposition, which is the second of these 3 oppositions since Pluto entered the sign of Aquarius, Mars entered the sign of Leo. So these oppositions are all happening on the Leo-Aquarius axis. Of course, Aquarius is kind of a significant energy right now because we are beginning a new 20-year Pluto an Aquarius generation where the energy and the archetypes and the characteristics and the themes and the tendencies associated with the Aquarian energy is where the power is actually going to be held. And as a result of that, of course, I've been talking about this period of time being sort of like a great decentralization of power, because Aquarius is a much more decentralized sign than the Capricornian energy and the Piscean energy, both the generation of Capricorn that we are coming out of right now as Pluto has left the sign of Capricorn, entered the sign of Aquarius, and also on the greater level, the age of Pisces that we are simultaneously transitioning out of right now as well. And Pluto being in Aquarius right now, I think is adding some like power and some grounding to this new age, this new paradigm, this age of Aquarius energy into where we're at now, into our current reality. It's I think playing quite a significant role in that transitional process, rooting those frequencies to the planet and within us. And I've been talking about that a lot. But anyways, this Mars Pluto opposition happening, you know, with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, Mars in the sign of Aries, and also, as I was explaining, in the context of where the nodes are positioned, because Leo, this is a fire sign. This is where Mars is. The North Node is in the sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, but this is also a fire sign. And we just so happen to have Mars at the exact degree in a trine aspect with the North Node in his sign, while Mars and Pluto come back to their second of 3 oppositions together. And Mars is retrograde right now. The North Node, this is the destiny point. This is, and trine aspects facilitate and support things and happening. This is letting us know that there is some destined, like, universal cosmic support right now for our growth, for our forward movement, for us kind of like re-identifying the self in some way, kind of like redefining the path ahead. But there's corrections that we need to make actually to the way that we are using our own energy, the way that we're behaving, the way that we're acting, the way that we are, like, honestly relating to our own selves. Like, that is what is going on. And there could be some very powerful internal confrontations, subconscious changes that we need to make, like some true like inner demons that we need to slay along these lines, in these regards, in order to actually activate that higher destiny, you know, get on that path to the purpose that is aligned with this North Node energy that universe is trying to help us to get down now. The North Node, you know, in the sign of Aries, this has been kind of a lesson plan that has been guiding us back to our authentic self, helping us to reawaken to our own personal power, to our own higher purpose in a very kind of like independent and more self-oriented way. On the flip side of that, the South Node in the sign of Libra, the South Node, if the North Node is about destiny, the South Node, this is our karma. This is the past. This is what we need to release ourselves from, let go of, detach from. And it's in the sign of Libra, the sign of other people. With the North Node in the sign of Aries, this is about redefining the self, personal growth in alignment with the true, like, higher nature of the self, or some other dimension of the self that for whatever reason we've been detached from somehow. And part of that process is going to have to be cutting ties with the old version of ourselves, maybe, or the relationships in our lives that kept us attached to like a distorted version of self, or that we had been sacrificing dimensions of self in order to appease or to keep the peace or to fit in, you know, to not be rejected, to be, you know, seen as some type of image, to fit some social mold. Like, there has to be a detachment from the relationships that have in any way kept us detached from this like personal journey, mission, being the knight in shining armor in our own story. You know, I've kind of been saying that, being on our own hero's journey, as well as Chiron has also been transiting the sign of Aries. So this has been a major theme over the past year and a half, that this Mars Pluto opposition, while Mars is in a trine to the North Node, is really letting us know it's sort of like it's this final battle. We need to like overcome or conquer something, you know, within self, perhaps within like maybe some fear or something, like some shadow, some subconscious situation, something like that, that has been distorting our perception of self, keeping us attached to things that were preventing our growth in some type of way so that we can actually move forward. This is what we're doing while Mars is retrograding in an opposition to Pluto and trying that North Node energy. Now, on the flip side of that, we have additional assistance because Pluto, at the degree that Pluto is at 1 degree of Aquarius right now, that is an air sign. The South Node, this karmic release that I was just talking about, that is in the sign of Libra. That is also an air sign. So we have another trine, a facilitating aspect, universal support in terms of our ability to literally, like, what is Pluto? Purge, transformation, death, rebirth, to literally like purge these past connections or these, I don't know, you know, past values maybe, or even they could be like an image that we've held of ourselves or of others, or just the ways that we have disoriented our own like self-direction in this life, in this reality, that's caused us to maybe go off on a path that's not really meant for us, or identify as somebody that we're really not, or, you know, wear some mask or have some image or have some facade for the purpose of being accepted, fitting in, you know, not being rejected. I don't know, something along those lines. But that is what, and especially if it has become toxic in nature to us in any type of a way, but most definitely if it is blocking our growth at this point in time, we're not going to be able to hold on to it. We are literally being supported in its destruction with Pluto in a trine to the South Node in Libra. And since this is air signs as well, it's also like the way that we've been thinking about things that has kept us attached to things that are toxic to us, or that are not good for us, or that are stealing our power, or that have been keeping us from being able to align with this purpose or this destiny or this just like higher path of fated growth that we're no longer being allowed to deny ourselves or like move away from. The North Node, this is destiny. This is something that is like beckoning us forth that honestly is out of our control. The South Node, this is karmic endings. So there are going to be some like potentially quite messy endings that go on here, especially if we won't let go of what we know has become more of like a burden or a weight or an anchor or a hindrance than something that is actually supporting our ability to become what we're meant to become at this point in time. And that sentiment, you know what I mean, of knowing what we're meant to become and like getting there, I think that that's going to be kind of like stirring or awakening within us on an individual basis more and more and more, you know, really starting from 2025 and moving forward and beyond. It's going to become a lot harder to deny that internal soul calling. And whereas we may have lived our entire life very cut off from that internal knowing just because of the way that we've been conditioned to interact with the matrix and with society, as those external control systems begin to break down now and moving forward, as we move through this great 2-decade period of decentralization and kind of like the breakdowns of the systems of power and control of the past and this power shift that goes on, it's going to become, I think, a lot just more like obvious and kind of just like organic and inherent and easy to perceive what it is that like we're really supposed to be doing. You know, when we've been, since the time that we were born, basically like conditioned and molded to be something that is considered or deemed like, you know, the productive standard like in society, whatever, it's very, very difficult, or becomes very difficult, especially when you add like trauma and stuff into the mix, to know who we really are and what we're really meant to be doing. And so, you know, I feel like that has contributed to quite a bit of just the generalized depression and purposelessness that a lot of people have been experiencing probably specifically throughout this past 2 decades, as we've been going through the Capricornian generation and preparing to head more into this new Aquarian era that is coming up right now. But that's definitely going to be shifting. This is an energy that we're moving into right now, especially in the beginning, where we need to learn, we need to gain as much information as we can, we need to expand our skill sets, we need to expand our notion and ideas of what is potential and what is possible for us, especially with Jupiter and Gemini right now as well. So like, you know, that's more so maybe where it's geared. We need to learn as much as we can and investigate and, you know, just follow our interests sort of. And over time, as we also, you know, I think, as I've been saying, this is a very good time to kind of get more serious about things, especially as we move through this Capricorn cycle. Put some work into preparing ourselves, training ourselves, upgrading physically, mentally, spiritually, paying good attention to what you're putting in your body, you know, paying good attention to how you're utilizing your body, having a good, just balanced like physical workout routine, mental workout routine, spiritual workout routine. I think that this type of thing is going to benefit us right now as well. And the more that I'm telling you guys, like, even if it seems like this girl has no idea what she's talking about, nothing will ever change for me, you know, I've been on this path for so long and I just, no results no matter how much effort I put in. Don't give up, okay? Just keep making the small improvements day after day after day. And the endurance and the persistence and our unwillingness to drop the vision right now, even if it seems like there's just never going to be a payoff, I think that as we move forward in 2025, and especially again, as we get through the rest of this winter and head towards the spring, things are going to, they're going to start to change. They're going to start to shift. There's going to actually be some significant changes that probably go on as we move through January and head into the month of February when we have our new moon in Aquarius coming up. The nodes are going to shift signs. This is an 18-year cycle that is concluding, and a 1.5 year long cycle also that is concluding, and we're going to be having some very fresh energy come in once we get into the Aquarius cycle. And then again, as we get through the spring, June into July, there's going to be some breakthroughs, some progress that really moves us forward in the context of these more perhaps like long-term, longer lasting changes and the things that we've been working on for a while. Things are going to start to change heading into 2025. Again, this is going to be a year of epic change on some level. How exactly all that's going to look, what type of change exactly we're dealing with, that remains yet to be seen, but that just seems to be how it's written out there, you guys. So anyways, let's talk about Friday now specifically. We do have the exact 2 of 3 Pluto-Mars oppositions hitting. I just talked all about it on Friday. So, you know, on the outside, on the exterior of things, you know, what's going on in the world, macrocosm, and even, you know, we could be facing some of this kind of like interpersonally as well, but there is the potential for just this more heated, kind of like explosive, volatile type of stuff, power struggles, confrontation type of stuff going on out there. However, Venus is leaving Aquarius. Venus enters the sign of Pisces on January 3rd, and this is going to soften the vibe. This is extra powerful, actually, Venus's transition into Pisces. Not only, I mean, Venus loves to be in Pisces. Like, this should bring kind of like a positive vibe shift to an extent, because I think it should chill things out a bit. I think things are going to be less kind of high strung now that we have Venus moving into the sign of Pisces, and Venus is also entering the sign of Pisces alongside the moon. The moon is also leaving Aquarius and entering Pisces when Venus is and will conjoin Venus at 0 degrees of Pisces. This is definitely giving a softer vibe than something that, you know, we may have felt for at least a couple of weeks now. And it could end up being, despite all of that like hardcore hostility going on out there, there could be kind of an element of us like shutting off the world and finding ourselves in a bit of a more like dreamy, idealistic, romantic energy even though, you know, like I said, there's still a lot of tension that is just like bubbling and broiling all around on the outskirts. But it just could be a day where we kind of find ourselves having the opportunity to escape reality to some extent, maybe having some more pleasant or comforting or lovely, or at least maybe positive emotional experiences or interactions with other people. People could sort of be walking around with rose-colored glasses on Friday. I wouldn't be surprised about that. And just kind of in a more compassionate state, wanting to see the best in people, and wanting to avoid maybe some of that other contention that is also going on. This should hopefully a little bit like chill out the potential for just like the combustion or the combativeness, or you know, just the volatility associated with the Pluto Mars situation. Pluto is trining the South Node in Libra. Like I said, Libra is ruled by Venus, so Venus moving into Pisces. But that, here's the thing, here's another thing about this energy though. Venus moving into Pisces, although it is definitely a more chill, relaxed, softer vibe, less like erratic and like I want change and like I won't tolerate this anymore type of energy than we had with Venus in Aquarius, and especially the mutual reception and square between Venus and Uranus as well. Venus in Pisces, this is very avoidant energy. Like it just doesn't want to deal with any type of difficult or ugly truths or anything like that, especially when it has to do with like other people and relationship dynamics. Like we're just not going to let your bad day or your bad time or your personal issues or toxicity like interfere with our butterflies and rainbows and sparkles when we've got a Venus Pisces, especially with the moon situation. So it does make me think, and Pisces is an energy that breaks things down, it washes things away, it erodes, it dissipates, things can kind of fall apart. We've got a strong Piscean energy going on, even though Venus loves to be in Pisces and it does good things for us generally. You know, it makes us feel good, it makes us happy, makes things very beautiful. This is a very artistic, creative energy. If you are artistically inclined, go after it, get into it. Like this is your vibe. But also, if you've been struggling with some relationships or some like commitments or investments or resources or like assets or something that you like know you need to let go of, but you just haven't been able to do it for one reason or another, with the South Node in Libra, last couple degrees of the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus and in a trine to Pluto. Pluto is also like the great destroyer, you know what I mean? Like in the South Node, this is karma, this is loss, this is endings, this is release. And now Venus in the sign of Pisces also can be about loss and endings and things just not being there anymore. There could definitely be, and this could definitely be triggering endings in relationships, the ability to pull out of those situations that maybe we'd been sort of teetering on the brink of, especially in the, you know, Venus oriented realms of things. And it's funny because, you know, we are just coming out of this Venus Aquarius transit where she was in the mutual reception with Uranus in the sign of Taurus, Venus in the sign of Aquarius, talked on and on and on about it. And of course, these are both fixed signs. So for this past several days, we've been dealing with the square also between Venus and Uranus. This could have brought over this past, I don't know, month or so, some very abrupt, sudden, shocking changes in relationship situations, financial situations, material situations, things to do with food, assets, resources, values, preferences, like things changing on a dime, like a sudden, a bit maybe shocking or unexpected desire to free ourselves perhaps from some attachments or other people or relationship dynamics, like I've been saying. And with this retrograde energy that we've had been going on lately as well, like pulling out of things, like wanting to uninvolve ourselves maybe in a faster way than we would have anticipated or expected, but nonetheless just like being done with situations, or just having maybe experienced some unexpected changes to things that we thought were stable, but like finding out the truth and knowing that, oh, you know, maybe we're not. Things may have gotten very real over the past, I don't know, couple weeks with Venus transiting Aquarius and the mutual reception, all of that. So it's not really surprising that now Venus enters Pisces and things might, you know, taper off, like just dissipate, fall apart, just fade away, get kind of like transparently over time washed out of our experience, you know. That could be something that is also going on, and that this Venus Pisces energetic shift could also be bringing us. Okay, so that's that. Spending time around water on Friday with both the moon and Venus in exact conjunction together at 0 degrees of Pisces, while we've got this very heated Pluto Mars energy going on. That could be therapeutic, that could be beneficial in some way, you know, like salt baths, purification, beauty treatments and stuff like that as well, pampering of all kinds. I would recommend maybe getting some of that done on Friday. Great day though to relax and cultivate peace and beauty. Again though, probably going to be more so of in like our own little world. I can't guarantee that's going to be how the greater like macrocosm experience at large is interfacing with us. Like there could just be like crazy stuff that's going on like in the news or on the world stage, like right outside your door. Like it kind of, when I was preparing this report and thinking about the energy for Friday with the moon and Venus hitting in 0 Pisces, but while we have this exact Mars Pluto opposition, it makes me think of like being in some type of, you know, museum, lovely hors d'oeuvres, beautiful gowns, the artwork, the music, the harp player, the fancy lighting, you know, the chandelier, like all of this, just a very pleasant, nice, jovial, kind of gregarious conversation going on. Everything seems quite perfect and just like all in place and everybody's just happy. But then like as soon as you go outside, there's like missiles flying and just bang, explosion, like it's just a disaster zone out there. That might be how things sort of feel. And all weekend, you know, the moon is transiting Pisces through later in the day on Sunday. As I said, once we get through later in the day on Sunday, the moon will enter Aries, hit the north node, come in a trine with Mars. That is probably going to light our fire back up somehow. But all weekend with the moon transiting Pisces and coming into a conjunction with Neptune on Sunday as well, earlier in the day, it could just be wanting to be in our own little world, wanting to be in that fantasy land to a little bit, wanting to get some extra sleep, maybe like just wanting to shut it all out. People more so inclined to be escaping reality than confronting reality, even though the confrontations and the power struggles and the challenges are very much playing themselves out as well. So I would expect people to just generally be more passive and desiring to see things less as how they really are and more as how we would prefer them to be. Now, it's actually like not even a bad thing, you know what I mean? This is it is a good energy to use, especially when we're considering like the process of manifestation and stuff like that, being able to align, you know, our mind's eye and our higher vision with these desires that we have in our heart and kind of like stay there, and unwillingness. And it's sort of like the fake it till you make it type of energy, but it's less about the superficiality of the fake it part and more about sort of, this is the ideal, I know what I want, this is the image that I'm holding in my mind. You may not be perceiving me as exactly being there yet, but that's kind of like how I'm seeing it, and that's the direction that I'm moving in, and I'm not really willing to consider that that is not the reality in the moment. So there could be, it could be a little bit of this like delusional to the benefit, to the plus side type of energy over this next couple of weeks. But again, like I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, especially since we do have this energy that is asking us to recreate ourselves, to step more into our power, to upgrade ourselves, to up level, to align with this higher version of ourselves that universe really wants us to become and step into right now. So, you know, and Venus, again, like in the sign of Pisces, this is generally a good thing. So even though we may be a bit out of touch with reality over this next couple of weeks and in the energy of Friday, I think that it actually, like on a greater energetic level, is for the purpose of helping us to see ourselves for what we could be and orient ourselves more along those lines, as opposed to maybe what we've always been, what we, we're just conditioned to believe that we are, how we've always seen ourselves. Because like I said, we are completing this transit, this 1.5 year long transit of the North Node and the South Node transiting through Aries and Libra. We've got to let go of the old image we held of ourselves, largely based on, who we associated with and what we have, how we have allowed our self-talk and our subconscious mind to be programmed in relation to our own identity, our own self-perception, as we redefine that self-perception in alignment with this higher version and vision of what universe wants us to become now. So it does make sense. I do think that we should, kind of be like holding that vision of the higher ideal of things right now. There could be some disappointment that's associated with it. We do, like, throughout the course of this period of time, we could experience that to an extent on Saturday, actually, as the moon comes into a conjunction with Saturn. But even with Venus preparing to come into a conjunction with Saturn in the sign of Pisces, it is kind of reinforcing the vision. And if we work at it and if we put some effort into it, and again, like if we are disciplined and if we focus on what we want to create at this point in time, that is also good manifestation energy to help us ground that ideal or that vision or that fantasy more into reality. So ultimately, you guys, this is good manifestation energy, even if people seem a little bit just like unrealistic maybe over this next couple of weeks, but it also does break things down. And it is to the same extent that it's actually supporting us and having maybe some of these higher ideals or delusions in regards to what is possible, the ideal, like what it is that we could become right now. Also, on the flip side of that, again, like I was saying, anything that we're just not into anymore, that we're not attracted to anymore, that we don't value anymore, that, I don't know, just doesn't hold that same level of worth and significance and importance to us anymore for some reason or another. Like, these things are going to break down. Those illusions are probably going to crumble entirely, like any illusion that we may have maintained about those things, which are going to assist our process of release and letting go from whatever it is that universe wants us to move on from in the realms of relationships and investments, connections, resources, assets, finances, like all that stuff as well. So it'll be interesting, you guys, to see how this Venus Pisces transit plays itself out for us as we move through this period of time. As I said, we no longer have the mutual reception going on with Uranus and Venus. So this should remove some of the instability and like the shock factor nature that may have been hitting along those very same relationship oriented realms this past several weeks. So that's Friday. I'd say we're, as I said, kind of all sort of in our own bubble. Outside of that, could be kind of stormy out there. We actually have Pluto at an unexpected thunderstorm, and Mars is at an epidemic of mumps. And then Mars is going to actually move to 0 degrees of the sign of Leo, which is under emotional stress. Blood rushes to a man's head. So, yeah, I mean, I've said what I'm going to say about that particular dynamic. Obviously, the symbolism is emphasizing all of that as well. But definitely karmic breakthroughs, I think, are indicated for this time generally, this Capricorn cycle, and perhaps even as we move through this weekend. Now, on Saturday, this of the days this weekend is probably the most downer of a day. That would be because we have our once monthly moon Saturn conjunction going on. Saturn, of course, the judge, the disciplinarian, the lord of time, the lord of karma. Saturn controls, Saturn limits, it's authority. And a lot of times when we have the moon coming into conjunction with Saturn, it just can kind of like repress the vibe a little bit. We can feel overburdened, like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. Everything can just look a bit more bleak. We can kind of tend towards the more pessimistic side of things when we have a Moon Saturn conjunction going on. Of course, you guys know that we are also experiencing a big aspect right now that only happens once every 4 to 5 years or so. That is Jupiter and Saturn in a square. They are only off of that square by 1 degree, but with the moon coming to conjoin Saturn and to square Jupiter, this is going to activate that square and just probably make it more prominent. Now, this is an energy that essentially lets us know what limitations are hindering our ability to grow and move forward. It can be a frustrating energy, and it could be, again, like something that is making quite evident to us our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities, our shortcomings, our flaws. It could bring up kind of like an inherent sense of failure, why we're not good enough, why we'll never make it, everything that is like standing in our way, blocking our way everywhere, especially with Saturn in the sign of Pisces and the moon coming there, like also where we've been victimized and how maybe that has prevented us from being able to do or be or become or move forward somehow at the rate that we want. It could just be kind of like in a frustrating, annoying, depressing, low vibe energy, to be honest with you, even though we do have Venus in the sign of Pisces now that is uplifting things a little bit, that is offsetting maybe just the pessimism or the critical nature of the Saturnian influence to some extent. We could just kind of be our own worst inner critic with the moon and Saturn together, or kind of feel like withdrawing, isolating. It could just be a more depressing, low vibe day. Okay, so that is just something to be aware of in the energy of Saturday. People could be desiring to escape or avoid reality, just kind of sleep through the day. A strong pull maybe to disengage, to disassociate, to detach also and not be involved. That's another thing that I wanted to say about Venus in the sign of Pisces. This is an energy that is willing and able to detach from anything that is essentially like keeping it out of its fantasy or its ideal or it's kind of like a happy place, happy space. So when we're dealing with a Pisces Venus energy, or if you know anybody that has Pisces and Venus, it's like, it's interesting because this is a very compassionate, very empathetic, very like sensitive energy, but it is also an energy that is going to like dip out real quick a lot of times, unless it's like backed up by other more like fixed sign placements or something like that. Like it's generally just not going to be part of the follow through in the event of some type of confrontation or some type of just like less pleasant experience that's going on. Like this is not an energy that in any way likes to be a part of a fight or a part of a difficult situation if they don't have to be. This is an energy that doesn't like to get dirty, I guess we could say, if it doesn't need to, which is perfectly reasonable. So over the next month, if you find people just sort of like less willing to involve themselves or more easily detaching from situations, it's probably the impact of this planetary shift that we have going on. Okay, so that's Friday, that's Saturday. Moving into Sunday, this is a kind of a weird day. How we start the day is not how we finish the day. I know we said how we start the weekend is not how we finish the weekend, but that really all comes down to this vibe shift on Sunday. It's almost like we kind of like go all into this Pisces dreamland, out of it, like wake me up when it's over type of energy to start the day on Sunday. But by the time we get through the day, for some reason, I don't know, we've been able to shake it off, like the light bulb came on, the alarm went off, or feeling more alive somehow, like we're just more geared back in action, like we're just more with it by the time we get to the end of the day. Why? I can't tell you, but there's definitely an energetic shift that takes place. That's because as the moon continues to transit through Pisces Saturday, moving into Sunday, the moon will come into a conjunction with Neptune at the very, end of the sign of Pisces, which is the ultimate in this Piscean energy. Like you may really need to sleep in, get some extra sleep. Dreams may be kind of crazy or just very realistic. in the energy, like Saturday night into Sunday night. It may just be a very slow morning. It may take you a while to, I don't know, come get with it or come to it. But the moon, after it makes the conjunction to Neptune, leaves the sign of Pisces, enters the sign of Aries. This on its own is a pretty significant vibe shift. Of course, Pisces, this is the end of the zodiac. It's this very like relaxed, chilled out, like daydreamy, spiritual type of energy. It's a very spiritually oriented weekend as well. I should have said that also. Like there could be I don't know, like there could be like crises of faith perhaps that are going on Saturday that are alleviated somehow by some higher spiritual connection or experience that goes on Sunday. Maybe that's what turns us back on somehow. I don't know. But there could be a stronger like spiritual orientation or dimension to the weekend as it plays itself out as well, with the moon transiting through the sign of Pisces. But after the moon conjunct Neptune in Pisces, the moon enters Aries. This turns the light back on. This is the wake up alarm clock. This is re-energizing us. But not only that, comes into a conjunction with the North Node, which is also a very like activating point. The North Node energy can kind of like get us whipped up, get us stirred up, get us oriented towards something, feeling like driven towards something, especially in the sign of Aries. And of course, remember I talked all about this earlier, the North Node in Aries right now is in a exact trine to Mars, who is ruling the position of the North Node in this other fire sign of Aries. So the trine, this is like fueling the fire, this is supporting the fire, this is like two streams of fire coming together in a harmonious way. Like we are motivated. Mars in the sign of Leo, like I don't know, the life force energy, the chi, I don't know what it is, but it's like our blood is running again or something, or we are just like stimulated by something or reinvigorated by something. We're ready to go. So as we hit the energy of Monday, I do think we're going to kind of like hit the ground running as we head into this week. It's interesting also because on the 6th, Mars backtracks into the sign of Cancer actually as a result of his retrograde. The 6th, I believe that is Monday. So we're going to have an Aries moon going on when Mars retrogrades back into the sign of Cancer, which is actually going to put us in a moon-Mars mutual reception. Mars in the sign of Aries or Cancer ruled by the moon, moon in the sign of Aries ruled by Mars. This is definitely going to, it could create some heated emotions. We're going to be ready to go. People are not going to be, just as this weekend, you know, I've been talking about people may have been wanting to kind of like shut out the conflict, like be in their own little bubble, like not participate in the contention, like not be involved in the ongoings, like kind of restraining from the action on some like level for some reason. As we get into Monday and we have this Mars moon mutual reception going on, Mars enters Cancer, moon enters Aries, and then there's the North Node situation, all of that. Yeah, we're probably going to be fired up to get involved somehow, or like ready to act, ready to participate. There's going to be a vibe shift. Okay, so how we start the weekend and even how we start the day on Sunday, this is not the vibe carrying us into or out of the weekend and into Monday. Yeah, so that's what I have to say, and that's the direction I think things are heading, and that's what I think things could, for the most part, be like as we move through our weekend this weekend. So that's what I'm going to say, you guys. I am going to get us a synchronicity card now. God, Spirit, Universe, I'm asking for one additional piece of guidance or information that we can use to guide our way through the weekend. What should we know? What should we keep in mind? What should we tell ourselves? What should we affirm over and over in our minds to help us be successful? Okay. It says, count on God. There it is, you guys. That's what I was, spiritual nature of the weekend. There it is. Count on God. And whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalms 1:3. You will prosper, you will grow and expand. The law of attraction is now working for you, and you attract all those who will help you in reaching your goals spiritually and materially. So that is the vision, you guys, this weekend that we need to do our best to hold on to tell ourselves, even if it doesn't feel like it right here. Count on God. Things are going to work out. You're going to prosper. Like I said earlier, you know, it may take a little bit of catch up time here in the physical plane, but it's already been seated in the spiritual plane. It just simply has to come to pass. So that's what I have, guys. That's what I have to say for you for this weekend. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments. Let me know what's going on with you guys out there. If you're having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know. That is valuable information to me. I really appreciate knowing if you're having experiences that match up with what I'm talking about in these videos. So if you are, let me know in my comment section below. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard right here, I have a Facebook group where I post full images of those boards so you can see what they say in their entirety. And come back with me on Monday, you guys. We are going to have a new week of astrology to get into. We've got more shifting vibes coming at us. As I said, Mars is going to re-enter the sign of Cancer on Monday. That is definitely going to bring an energetic vibe shift. So we need to talk about that. And of course, there's more, so you don't want to miss it. I will be back to talk all about it. You should be back too. I will see you then, guys. Have a beautiful weekend, and until next time, bye.